Hello everyone, in the video I am going to discuss the important news for the week which are related with economics, finance, banking, social issues and coming in almost all competitive exam where we are preparing. And at the end of this I am going to ask you some of the discussion point that you discuss in your group, and then in the live class I am going to answer some of these points and any other questions you ask. Bond market signals a rocky road ahead of Tata Motors and JLR. So by reading these kinds of news, you understand how bond market operates. Right? We need not to read every detail. So what this news is saying, that bond market is signaling a rocky road ahead for both Tata Motors and its British subsidiary JLR. Tata bought JLR few years back because companies are struggling with the car sales. The sales of the companies are suffering. So this line, the yield on JLR bond has more than doubled since the pandemic blew out of the proportion. So what does it mean? So yield on this bond which is issued by JLR has increased to 13.2%. So what does it mean? It means that the bondholders feel that company may go bad. It may not be in a position to repay the bond. So when the risk increases, remember I always say this formula, HR, high risk, high return. So those who are willing to take risk still buying this bond. So this bond must be selling in the secondary market. Means I already have a bond, but I feel that this company may go bust. I may not get anything out of this bond in future. So better I sell it off. So what I will do? Suppose 100 rupees bond, I am now selling at 90 rupees because I know nobody is going to buy at 100 rupees. So at 100 rupees, if the interest rate is 6% when the bond was issued, and today if I say okay, I am willing to sell this bond for 80 rupees, so on 80 rupees investment somebody is getting a coupon payment of 6%, which is equivalent to an yield of 7.5%. Divide 6 by 80 multiply by 100. So that is why the yield is increasing. It is not that the company is giving more money. Understand this. So the JLR bond are trading at a record yield of 13.2%, one of the highest in the automobile industry. So the purpose of this news is not that you remember this 13.2% or whatever about JLR or any company's bond. That will not come in exam. But you understand what happens when the risk increases, bond start selling at discount. We discussed that in our concept videos, and this is the example of that. Last time in one editorial I mentioned that banks will reduce deposit rate rather than using the liquidity given by RBI. RBI cut the repo rate, we discussed last time in the recent monetary policy announcement. So rather than passing that benefit to the borrower by reducing the interest rate in the advances and giving more advances, so that article was saying this is not going to help the RBI's move to just reduce the interest rate. Rather bank will slash the interest rate for depositors. So that is this news. SBI slashed FD rates by 40 bps, second cut in May month. Another item also mentioned here, the lender will also extend EMI moratorium by 3 months to all eligible customers without waiting for the request. So as we know, the RBI extended the moratorium payment for all loan payments, loan EMIs. This benefit also being passed by SBI to all the borrowers without asking their request. So many time banks were saying customer will request, then we will pass this benefit. So the SBI is saying no, we are passing it to everyone. But the point is, like last time editorial was saying, bank are sitting with some 7 lakh crore extra money which they have kept with RBI in reverse repo. So there is no dearth of liquidity. RBI is helping only for liquidity, will not help. Interest on deposit dropped to 17-year low because again more liquidity in the system, bank do not find avenues to lend, economy is not doing well, so they cannot pay more interest to depositors. It's a simple supply demand game. So more money is available in the market, so banks have enough deposits. So they have enough deposits, so there is supply of money in the market, and demand comes from borrowing. So you need people, those who are ready to borrow more. So even if people are ready to borrow but banks are not ready to lend because they don't see there is sufficient economic activity. Borrowing shall not be based only on the demand but also based on the assessment or the ability of the borrower to repay. Right? So this is saying the same story, and these kinds of news center to tell states not to rewrite laws. So now if I have to ask question on these kind of news, we discussed 2 weeks back that many state government, UP, MP, Gujarat, etc., they have revised labor laws making hire and fire easy. But you know, hiring and firing making easy is also not a great decision because there are consequences of that also, companies misutilizing. So ILO, International Labour Organization, has raised this issue with the government, and therefore central government labor ministry is going to write to the state government that they shall not attempt to rewrite all the labor laws because it will sometime land into India's some conflict with India's international commitment in this area. So as per ILO try to protect the rights of the labor. So suppose UP government says something which is a dilution of the India's commitment to ILO. So that's why India has written to India's central government is writing to state government. But what we get out of this for exam? Where is the headquarter of ILO? Who is the Director General of ILO? Whenever you read this kind of news, try to find out these. So I have found out here Guy Rader. He is the current Director General of ILO and headquarter of ILO is Geneva, Switzerland. Have you noticed this news that KV Kamath was earlier CEO of ICICI Bank, and then he joined New Development Bank where India is a founding country. So New Development Bank, now Kamath has left as a president, and the new president is Marcos Rogio. Marcos Rogio is from Brazil. Remember these two things here, his name and also country Brazil, also where is headquarter of New Development Bank. And in exam you shall also know that KV Kamath was the last president because he being an Indian. Another important interesting news actually, Google faces CCI case over payment app. So in this news there is not much to remember that exam you shall not expect that one case or two cases going to come in exam, but we shall know what is Competition Commission of India, what it does. So CCI does that companies are not misutilizing their monopoly power, right? So in this news we discussed about these markets earlier, monopoly, oligopoly. So in monopoly, one who has almost single hand presence in that market becomes strong. So one supplier, one company supplying and all others are buying in the market is monopoly. So Competition Connection of India wants to ensure that the supplier, the monopoly supplier, is not misutilizing its position. So in this case, you know, all app in the Play Store are placed by Google because it's Google's Play Store. But Google shall not discriminate. Say for example, today you want to search on Google, right? So Google search shall allow all the companies as per the fair practices. There are advertisements, that is different, that is the revenue model of the Google, but It shall not happen that one company is coming on the top. So here the allegation on Google is that Google Pay, which is the payment app of Google, that is coming on the top. In fact, I checked after this out of some curiosity, and yes, it is coming in many searches, but we do not know. That is maybe because of the genuine followership of that app. That algorithm only can tell, but that is the charge here, and for such charges in India we have CCI to probe. This is about RBI to auction 84 days CMBs worth 80 crore. So you have to understand what is cash management bill. Read this. RBI announced auction of 84 days cash management bill through which government intend to raise 80,000 crore. So what will happen? RBI will sell this 84 days security. 84 days security means maturing in 84 days, and the auction will be conducted Thursday. It says CMBs are, this is the knowledge useful for exam, CMBs are used to meet the temporary mismatch in the cash flow of the government. This instrument has the generic character of treasury bill. We know treasury bill minimum time is 91 days, but it has issued for maturity less than 91 days. So treasury bill can be issued for 91 days, but for lesser period government can issue cash management bill for temporary mismatch. CMB seems to be a better option for the government to raise funds needed for temporary requirement, because CMBs come cheaper as compared to utilizing the wage and means advances for temporary cash requirement. Now, do you remember WMA, wage and means advances? I have discussed that in that RBI related video. So WMA is a facility given by RBI to government to overdraw the account, right? It's a kind of OD facility, overdraft facility. What is overdraft facility? Suppose you have a overdraft facility in a bank, say even for individuals also now banks are giving, like HDFC Bank gives. So you can say I have a 5 lakh OD facility. So what happens in that? Anytime you need money, you can draw maximum 5 lakh rupees from bank, and whatever amount you draw on that you will have to pay interest. So one day you can draw 2 lakh, so you will have to pay interest only on 2 lakh rupees for those many days. So if you return after 5 days, interest will be charged only for 5 days. So that is overdraft facility, and that is the kind of facility called WMA, wage and means advance, given by RBI to government. But WMA interest is higher than what government is going to pay on this 84 days CMB. And what is the interest to be paid on WMA? Repo rate, which is 4% now. And this news repeated here, 7 lakh crore is parked by banks with RBI in reverse repo. So WMA is at repo rate, and this auction will bring money to the government somewhere close to reverse repo rate. So reverse repo is 3.35%, so maybe about 65 BPS cheaper for the government to borrow this 80,000 crore rupees. So it's a huge money, because 80,000 crore is a huge money. A small fraction of the interest rate will make it overall difference here. Foreign portfolio investors sell over 2.6 billion of Indian bonds in May. We know about foreign portfolio investors, FPI and FDI. So FPI is the investment in securities. It can be in equity, it can be in bond. So it is saying in May month, the sale by these foreign portfolio investors of the Indian bond is 2.6 billion. Remember that JLR news, Tata JLR news. When the bondholders see there is a risk in the company, they start selling. But at the same time, they have also bought, because there are some other buyers in the market. So if you see the net sale since January 2020, it is 14 billion. That means there was some buying also in the market, and India witnessed the highest FPI outflow from this bond among Asian peers this year. So like India has seen 14 billion net sales, so Indonesia is after India 7.9 billion, and then Malaysia and Thailand respectively this amount. But you need not to remember these amount, because these amount will keep changing, and these are not asked in the exam. The idea of telling it here is understanding what is FPI, how it happens, what are the reasons. So if you keep on reading such kind of news, the 2-marker question in RBI especially, where there is a para, you have to understand the reasons, that becomes easy. And for SEBI kind of exam, you will not find these terms very technical. RBI slaps penalties on Bank of India, 2 others for non-compliance. Again, these small amount of penalty of 2 crore, 5 crore is not a big penalty. And here it says that RBI penalize for non-compliance on IRAC norm. So you will remember the full form of IRAC. It is most popular thing in RBI parlance. IRAC is income recognition and asset classification. Basically the guideline for making account NPAs, non-performing asset. So non-performing, I have explained it earlier also. I am saying why it is called IRAC, income recognition norm. So understand, when a bank has to call an asset giving income, so what happens in any advance, even if the interest is not paid, up to 91 days the interest accrued, right, on the accrual of the interest, मतलब पैसा भी आया नहीं है लेकिन बैंक ने ब्याज लगा दिया है, तो that is counted as income up to 91 days. That is income recognition norm. And then asset classification, you know, after 90 day it will become 91 day it will become NPA substandard, and then there are doubtful and loss. Doubtful is after 1 year, so that separately you study. So that is asset classification norm, that in which category the asset is classified. But once the asset becomes NPA, you do not recognize the income of that asset. Means एक बार लोन को आपने सब स्टैंडर्ड क्लासिफाई कर दिया तो उस पर जो ब्याज लग रहा है वो बैंक की इनकम में काउंट नहीं होगा. दैट्स व्हाई इट इज कॉल्ड IRAC norm. So these matters are from the old inspections of RBI of 2017 and 18. You need not to remember all these details, amount, which bank, but understanding these are important thing for RBI. IRAC norms, KYC guideline, know your customer guideline, not mentioned in this news, but I am telling you, on which RBI penalize bank. Now you will see why this small 5 crore penalty, 2 crore penalty, what will happen with this. For bank it is a small amount. The pain point in these penalties is, as per the Basel, there is a third pillar that is talking about disclosures, okay, market discipline. So what happens, these banks are required to disclose this in their financial statement. When they publish their balance sheet, annual report, they will have to write RBI penalized me for this reason. So that is the pain point for them, because that brings market discipline in these institutions. Market comes to know that you are not following RBI guidelines meticulously. FDI jumps 14% in FY20 to record 49.9 billion, almost 50 billion. Just now we discussed about FII, FPI, people selling, but in full financial year also understand. So this is not talking about last quarter. So that FPI news was since January, but the full financial year FDI in country increased to close to 50 billion as per the data released by DPIIT. This full form also you shall know, Department of Promotion of Industrial and Internal Trade. Total FDI, which includes equity capital of unincorporated bodies, reinvest earning and other capital, stood at 73 billion. up from 63 billion a year ago. So this amount is higher, 73 billion, because here the reinvestment earning, suppose a foreign company which had been working in India, they have earning, they again reinvested. So this 49.9 billion has come new, but means from the overseas market it has come new. But if we count total FDI, which also includes reinvestment and other things, this is 73 billion. And see this table, how it is increasing year by year. This amount is an important amount to remember. 49.9 billion FDI in FY 1920. And Maharashtra is leading here, followed by Karnataka. Money is coming into financial sector, banking, insurance, outsourcing and others. Another news, April core sector output shrink to 38%. Again, as I am saying, these percentage will keep on changing month on month, and this is only for April month. But understand what is core sector. So output of the 8 core sectors, we have discussed this in the course videos also. What are these 8 core sectors? These are coal, crude, natural gas, refinery, fertilizer, steel, cement, electricity, and this is overall of this. So everywhere you see negative growth in all these 8 core industries, shrink to 38%. So it's not growth declined, but it has shrinked, contraction. The data is coming from Commerce and Industry Ministry. And another important data, growth in per capita income slows. So this says each Indian would have earned a little over 11,000 rupees per month on an average in 1920 if the entire national income was distributed equally, because per capita income stood at 1,34,226 this year. But understand, this does not mean that every Indian is earning 11,000 rupees per month. So for a family of 5, it will become 55,000 rupees per month, which will be a decent income. And we know how many poor laborers, migrant we have, because this also includes the income of all Adanis, Ambanis, Tatas, Birlas, and then many HNIs. Okay. So you can expect that for poor people it may be 500 rupees per member or 200 rupees per member for the month. The poor, those who are dying out of hunger. And how do you know that? That distribution, Gini coefficient. Remember that. So coming to this news, remember this data, because per capita income we shall know there is 6.1% increase in this if you compare with the last year. But if you see, this growth is lowest in all these years. It was 9.7, 9.9, 10, 9.4, 9.5. So this is a very poor growth in the per capita income. Also, agriculture grows 5.9% in Q4. Forecast for this year shaky. For the entire financial year, GVA means gross value added, 4% increase, which was near the long-term trend of the sector. But this year the growth was expected at 11.4%, because 7.4% is the inflationary impact. So you understand this concept, the real growth and nominal growth. So when we talk about nominal growth, that also has the inflation element into it. Suppose wheat, so if I was getting it in 100 rupees last year, now I am getting in 110 rupees. So automatically everything in GDP is counted in money terms. So 10% growth is already there. So this 7.4% growth, nominal growth, will happen even when there is no real increase in the production. Say agriculture production here we are talking about. But it says the gross value added, 4% actual increase in the production. But because of the 7.4% inflation, nominal growth will be this. And you can understand this graph to understand this nominal growth. That is the growth at the current prices, red one, and the blue one tells you the growth at constant price. The price of 2011-12 is taken as a constant price, and this yellow area here, it tells the inflation. So the inflation is the gap between the growth at constant price and growth at current price. This is the thing you have to understand, and of course remembering the agriculture growth data for the year. Quarter wise it will not be asked. At 4.6% of the GDP, last year's fiscal deficit breaches FRBM Act escape clause. The centre's fiscal deficit for 1920 is 4.6% of nominal GDP as against the revised estimate of 3.8%. So, because the revised estimate was 3.8%, so this 4.6% fiscal deficit is beyond the escape clause followed by the FRBM, and this is mostly due to the lower than anticipated GDP growth and revenue collections across the board. You can see what is that across the board. So net tax revenue, which was estimated 15 lakh crore, while the provisional figure says it happened only 13.56, which is about 90%. So likewise non-tax revenue also only about 94%. Non-debit capital receipt also, non-debt capital receipt also about 84%. Total revenue 90% of the expectation of the revised estimate. So government was expecting to get total revenue of 19 lakh crore last year, 19.32, but it got actually as per the provisional estimate, because the exact number will come later in next year budget time. It will be, government will be submitting the exact number, but now it says that 17.51 trillion only, which is 90% of the revised estimate. But if you see the expenditure wise, so expenditure wise the expenditure was planned for 27 lakh crore and government spent 99.5%. See here 26.90 was spent by the government, which has this revenue expenditure and capital expenditure component. So this is the fiscal deficit here. The expenditure are higher than the revenue. The money comes from the fiscal deficit and government is breaching the escape clause of the FRBM. This newspaper article, I think it is from Economics Times, it is saying that structural reforms are required, not just spending will help. It says that growth of 3.1% in Q4 had been preceded by ever slower growth quarter after quarter, 5.2% in Q1, 4.4 in Q2, 4.1 in Q3. Don't remember all this, just understand the story. So it says the nominal growth rate for the year as a whole comes to 7.2%. First of all, I am not understanding why nowadays people are writing a lot about nominal growth, because the real growth after the inflation adjustment is really low. So people have started writing nominal growth. And it also says gross fixed capital formation was down to 26.9%. So economy has been in trouble, and it says it was in deepening trouble even before the pandemic induced lockdown began on March 25th. So if you see India's economy, I was reading somewhere, for last 7 quarters the economy growth is slowing down, because now all focus has come on COVID, but economy had been already in a very bad shape. And हिंदी में बोलते ना, कंगाली में आटा गीला, ऊपर से कोरोना ने मार दिया. So this article says this means essential structural reforms are required, not only government spending will help. What are the structural reforms? You understand this, like banking system, which has become dysfunctional. We discussed a lot. Banks are not giving loan. They are rather parking money with RBI. So banks are not able to mediate, incapable of mediating people saving to industry. Blame accumulated bad loans, slow pace of insolvency resolution, political failure to fix the crisis in the power sector, that accounts for large share of the non-performing assets in the bank book. And the fear of legitimate credit decision launching criminal investigations. Remember, every time I talk about that 3 C's, last time finance minister told that don't worry about 3 C's, but it is easier to be said. I don't think government agencies are really acting that way. So it says the banking system has turned dysfunctional, and there is also no functional bond market to help companies to raise debt directly from the savers. So we know in India bond market is weak. So it says that government need to fix the banks and create a functional market for corporate bonds. And this alone can raise the rate of investment, which must rise to above 30% of the GDP for economic growth to regain force and become sustainable. So this is talking about structural reforms in banking system, in the bond market, and also suggesting buy out stalled real estate and other infrastructure projects that are inherently viable and complete them through state owned entities, fund them through state owned vehicles, the bonds issued by which would be purchased by RBI. Let these and other corporate bonds be actively traded in the debt market, in which EPFO and NPS can also become active. So these are the suggestions, but understand what does it mean by structural reforms. You must be knowing this, that Donald Trump accused WHO failing to hold Beijing over this coronavirus spread, and he said that we will not provide any financial support to WHO. European Union on Saturday urged US President to rethink on this decision. So this is important news, you shall know. Cayman Islands, now India's 10th biggest investors. In this, idea is knowing about FDI, foreign direct investment. So these Cayman Islands are actually tax havens. The news item says DPIIT is wary of inflows shooting up from tax havens, generally defined as, what are these tax havens? Defined as country or place with very low effective rate of taxation for foreign investors. So what investors do, they open a company in these countries where tax rates are very, very low. And India is seeing that now Cayman Islands are 10th place in terms of the FDI coming to India. And we have noticed, the government says, we have noticed that the increasing incidence of potential round tipping of the profits by Indian companies. This will be discussed with the Corporate Affairs Ministry. So what happens? The round tipping here, it means Indian companies, they have money, but because it will be taxes heavily if they invest directly, so rather they route their money to these tax havens, and from there they invest in Indian businesses using FDI route. And we know this number, that FDI has increased to close to 50 billion this time. Q4 figures likely inflated. That is what expert says, that now government has come out with the Q4 growth, which is 3.1% YOY growth, and the estimates for the previous quarter also got revised. So earlier government said on February 18 that the growth for first quarter is like 5.6%. Now government said no, it is only 5.2. Similarly Q2 was said 5.1, but now the estimate saying it is 4.4 only, and Q3 also it is revised to 4.1%. So lot of economists, former chief statistician Pranav Sen is of the view that GDP at current price for the fourth quarter, shown as 53.3 trillion, has been overstated by 2 trillion. So people are questioning these data, and they are also feeling that revision reveals possibly the loss of the Q4. The impact of the lockdown may have been evenly distributed across the previous quarters also. There are significant variation in the earlier 3-quarter estimate, as I discussed. My point of sharing this news to you is, you need not to remember all this data, but you understand that collecting these kind of data about nation is very complicated. So whenever you find some divergence here and there, don't worry much about it, and understand that it is not a physical science where you can be always very accurate. Expand outdated G7 bloc to include India. Must be knowing this, because today another news is there that Trump called Modi to attend G7 meeting. I don't know whether it is an official news, but I read somewhere. So point here is, for exam purpose, knowing what is G7. Which are the countries in G7? So G7 is the group of top 7 developed economies. These include US, UK, France, Germany, Italy, Japan and Canada. The US currently holds the annual presidency of G7 countries. Earlier it was G8. In 2014, Russia was disinvited from the gathering. So earlier it was G8. After Russia's annexion of the Crimea, so Russia was kept out of this. It became G7. For exam purpose, you shall know this. And when the summit happens, that also will become important news. This is the news of SpaceX Dragon spacecraft with 2 NASA astronauts launched. You know SpaceX, which is Elon Musk company. Elon Musk, Tesla Motors. So SpaceX has tied up with NASA, and you remember in this 20 lakh crore stimulus package, space sector in India is also open for private investment. So this has happened in US. So NASA tied up with SpaceX, which is going to open space for tourism purpose. It will happen in future, but first time it has happened that in this collaboration, SpaceX spacecraft has been successfully launched to space and it has docketed with International Space Station. SEBI mulls one-time listing window for unlisted NCDs. Now SEBI exam. Otherwise also you shall know what are NCDs. NCDs are non-convertible debentures. So because there are many unlisted, so you can understand unlisted NCDs means these are the securities which are not listed in the market. Company issued these debentures. So debenture is a debt security, right? It cannot be converted into equity. That's why it is called non-convertible in case of NCD. So there are 41,000 crore worth such NCDs with mutual fund, and SEBI is allowing these to list one time so that liquidity of these can be increased in this market. So this is first time unprecedented one-time listing window for existing unlisted NCDs to erase stress at various mutual fund. Because the risk aversion of right now in this COVID-19 situation, it has made very difficult for funds to offload these securities without losses. So there are about 128 such companies, that includes companies like Tata Sons, ONGC, Adani, Petro Editions, KKR India. So don't remember all these names and this amount also. I keep on repeating that. How much detail we have to go. But understand what are NCDs, what is listing, how this listing helps in creating more liquidity for these debentures. And this is happening first time. Rupee fall doesn't suffice to allay exporters' woes. So this news says that the rupee, which has depreciated 5.6% since January, is hardly a solace to the exporters as they struggle to cope up with the unprecedented cancellations of the order following the COVID situation. So normally what happens when rupee depreciate, exporters get the benefit, but because their orders are getting cancelled, it is not helping. It says the merchandise export means, say for example you are trading agriculture commodity or clothes, the goods which you can touch. Software export is not merchandise export. It contracted by 35% in March and 60% in April. So this is one reason, because of the order cancellation. Also it is saying currencies of other competitors of India also have weakened against the dollar. Say for example Malaysian ringgit, it has depreciated by 5.9%. Similarly Indonesian rupiah has dropped by 5.1%. Singapore dollar also and Pakistani rupee weakened by 4.7%. Remember the names of these currencies. These are asked sometime in exam. And in software services, roughly 28% of the payments are made in currencies other than the dollar. And about the rupee, though it is depreciated, but if you see REER is real effective exchange rate, which is based on the export weighted average of the 36 currencies. It says the rupee is still overvalued by almost 16% in April despite this depreciation. So it says rupee is still overvalued, remained overvalued just over 16% in FY19 and close to 20% in FY20. So rupee may be depreciating, but still it's a highly valued currency, means it shall actually depreciate more, that is what it's suggesting. And there are other regions also, like Bangladesh has duty-free access to the US and the EU market for garments, and Vietnam has emerged as an electronic export hub. So that's why India export is not becoming competitive here. Nomura's report says every 1% depreciation is raises export just by 0.9 percentage point in the same quarter. Whereas every 1% of the global GDP growth drives up the export by 2.7%. So what contributes more for export? Depreciation of the rupee or the global GDP? Global GDP growth. That is as per Nomura again. This means global growth can potentially create more export opportunities for Indian than the currency depreciation. And IMF has predicted that 3% contraction for global GDP in 2020. So our exports are going to hit with this kind of calculations. So it says this is the worst recession since 1930s, and global trade volume will crash 13 to 32%. That is what WTO also feels. As far as India is concerned, US, EU and China made up 40% of the merchandise export from India, and US, Canada, Europe up to 61% of the software services, and dollar is the most preferred currency, 72% share. Here we read this, 28% are in other currencies for software export. So worry for exporters is the massive demand slowdown. Moody's cut India's rating to lowest investment grade. So India's rating has been reduced to Baa3 from Baa2, one notch down, but with a negative outlook because of the prolonged period of the slowdown, which is expected to continue. And Moody's has upgraded India's rating earlier in 2017 after 14 years. And the agency said this rating cut is not driven by the COVID impact, but due to the weak implementation of the reforms measure. That is actually a more dangerous statement. It is not driven by the impact of pandemic, it says. And India's outlook is negative. See here, the downgrade is because of the prolonged period of the slower growth relative to the country's potential, and also rising debt in the country. Coronavirus shock is again increasing the debt significantly. Challenges India faces, and these are the fiscal constraints, low growth, mixed record in revenue raising, and fiscal consolidation has underwhelmed targets consistently missed by the government. We were just reading about FRBM escape clause also missed, and it says that problem began before COVID-19. Persistent weak private sector investment, slow reforms momentum, stimulus not enough. So this is the rating, and this you shall remember, and also remember that outlook is negative. And this article tells you how these sovereign ratings are decided. So ultimately at the end of the article you will realize that you have not learned anything, But understand, so these rating considers economic, institutional, fiscal and external factors. There are various ways of doing some adjustment. There are some sticky component which are based on the fundamentals. And there are some elastic component where there are some adjustment to be done, what is going to come for next few quarters, next few years. And then there are sensitive areas, risk sensitivity, event risk, etc. are given to decide about various sectors, but finally it remains a black box. So the rating agency only knows. That is good enough. Here SEBI orders probe into dealings of debt fund shut down by Franklin. We covered this news multiple times. So now SEBI has started investigation on this. Is there any violation of the regulatory guidelines? That is what SEBI wants to know, and SEBI is not doing this audit themselves. They have given this work to a chartered accountant firm to do this forensic audit to probe the dealings of the 6 mutual fund scheme that was shut down by Franklin, to investigate if there were any collusion between the fund house and the bond issuing corporate, instances of conflict of interest of director or senior officers. So maybe when report comes, then it will become more important. This time just know that SEBI has started this investigation, and this is given to Choksi and Choksi LLP. LLP is Limited Liability Partnership Company. We have discussed that in types of company. Remember Prachi ma'am's class? Paddy MSP hiked by 53 rupees per quintal. MSP is minimum support price. So minimum support price for kharif crops has been declared. This is mentioned here. So now for paddy it is 1868 rupees per quintal price for common paddy, because paddy we know there are different varieties. Say for example basmati rice, of course that paddy will be priced higher. Okay, so this is 2.92% increase in the paddy price. Here also grade A other 1888, but remember only paddy common for the exam purpose. For NABARD exam others are also important. For RBI and SEBI others are not important. So opposition parties, state like Punjab, they are saying this is very low increase, not going to help farmers. But you know government subsidy burden is increasing. So this time increase is only 2.9%. Now coming to what are the discussion points that you will do in your group. What is the difference between rear and near? If you don't know, Google it. You discuss, you will find it out. This I discussed, rupees depreciating but export not increasing. Why? What is the use of MSP? Why there is an MSP? Why government need to announce MSP? And when CMB's cash management bills are used by the government, in what kind of situation, and what is the use of these? What is FRBM's escape clause? Many of these points today I discussed, but you may discuss more in detail, and then we can discuss these or any other point of discussion on the items we discussed or anywhere in the course in the live class today. See you there.